What you are about to hear is not entertainment. It is not casual inspiration. It is the beginning of a shift, one so powerful that if you accept it, your entire reality will bend to it. Because here is the truth most men never discover until their final years. Your world does not change until your mind does. Every result in your life, every relationship, every dollar in your account, every opportunity that has arrived or slipped away, was first authored by your thinking. You have been taught to believe that circumstances shape thought, but the law is the opposite. Thought shapes circumstance. Your dominant patterns of belief act like a compass. They either guide you into power or drag you into hesitation, and unless you seize control of that compass, you will drift endlessly in a sea of repetition, living the same year over and over and calling it life. So today we begin with a question that cuts deeper than motivation. What if the only thing standing between the life you live and the life you desire is the way you think? The human mind is not neutral. It does not simply record reality. It creates it. When you assume failure, you unconsciously direct your energy to fulfill that prophecy. You shrink when you should advance. You doubt when you should decide. You hesitate when you should strike. And then you point at the result and say, "See, I knew it wouldn't work." But what you never see is how your thought created the collapse. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine assuming that every challenge carries the seed of victory. Imagine assuming that every closed door conceals another opening. Imagine assuming not casually, not weakly, but with conviction, that your life bends in your favor. That is not fantasy. That is mental engineering. That is the architecture behind every titan history remembers. Henry Ford was not the wealthiest when he began. He was not the most educated. What separated him was his refusal to think like the crowd. When men scoffed at the impossible vision of an automobile for the masses, he assumed it was already real. He walked, spoke, and built as if success was inevitable, and the world bent around his certainty. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before the light bulb illuminated the world. But he did not call them failures. Why? Because his thinking refused to accept defeat as an identity. He assumed that every attempt was a step toward inevitability. His reality conformed to his mind. Andrew Carnegie rose from a poor Scottish immigrant to one of the most powerful industrialists in history. He did not wait for circumstances to grant him favor. He trained his thoughts to see opportunity where others saw obstacle. He assumed wealth before he possessed it, and his actions brought it forth. Understand this: they were not lucky. They were decided. Their inner script dictated their outer world. If you look at your life right now, the delays, the setbacks, the unfinished dreams, do not blame the external. Do not point at the economy, your upbringing, or the people who doubted you. Begin with this ruthless truth: your reality is the echo of your dominant thoughts. If you think small, your life shrinks. If you think fear, your life trembles. If you think doubt, your life folds. But when you think power, your life expands. When you think possibility, your life bends toward opportunity. When you think certainty, your actions grow teeth. And that is why today marks a line in the sand. From this moment forward, you do not think casually. You think deliberate, because the mind is always building, either prisons or palaces. So let me hand you a challenge. From today you must act as if your thoughts are commands to reality. When you think "I am capable," you move as a capable man. When you think "I am certain," your words carry authority. When you think "this will bend in my favor," your energy magnetizes solutions, and the opposite is just as true. The world does not respond to what you hope. It responds to what you believe. Your subconscious does not argue with you. It accepts what you feed it and then filters your world to match it. That is why indecision breeds chaos, and certainty breeds power. Here is your first practice. Each morning you declare aloud with spine tall and voice firm, "I think like the man I am becoming, not the man I was. My thoughts create my world, and I command them with discipline. I bend reality by the authority of my thinking." Do not whisper them. Do not recite them as poetry. Speak them as law, until your nervous system recognizes them as your new baseline. Because repetition is the only language your subconscious obeys. This is where we begin, not with strategies, not with external hacks, not with waiting for opportunity. We begin by seizing the steering wheel of thought, because the man who changes his thinking changes his direction, and the man who changes direction changes his destiny. So hear me clearly. Your current life is not permanent. It is programmable, and the code begins with thought. Most men live their entire lives in a prison built by their own minds, not a prison of bars but of beliefs, not a cage made of iron, but of assumptions so rehearsed they feel like law. And the cruelest part is they do not even know they are in prison. They wake up thinking the same thoughts they thought yesterday. They feel the same doubts, recite the same fears, and then take the same hesitant actions. And what does life give them in return? The same results, over and over, year after year. This is the cycle of doubt, and unless you break it, it will swallow decades of your life. Here is the formula most men never see. A thought appears, I'm not ready. What if I fail? What if they reject me? The body reacts, the heart rate quickens, the palms sweat, the muscles the action shrinks. He hesitates, he delays, he does half the work instead of all. The result reflects weakness. The outcome is mediocre, or nothing happens at all. The thought is reinforced. See, I knew I wasn't ready, and the cycle spins again, deeper each time. Doubt is not a one-time event. Doubt is a program, and every time you hesitate, you reinforce it. The tragedy is not that men fail. Failure is part of the climb. The tragedy is that men interpret failure as proof of their weakness, instead of proof of their progress. Thomas Edison faced thousands of so-called failures, but he refused to label them that way. Each test was a lesson, each setback a step, because his thinking broke the cycle of doubt before it could form. Contrast that with the average man. He fails once, and he writes a story in his head. He rehearses it, he repeats it, he convinces himself it is truth, and then his subconscious, loyal, obedient, unrelenting, delivers a reality to match that story. Most men do not live in reality, they live in their rehearsed doubt. How many times have you said, I'll start when I feel ready? That single thought has killed more dreams than fear itself, because here is the truth. You will never feel ready, not once, not ever. Abraham Lincoln did not feel ready to lead a fractured nation. Henry Ford did not feel ready to revolutionize transportation. Andrew Carnegie did not feel ready to bet everything on steel. They did not wait for readiness. They thought decisively, they moved, and readiness followed their action, not the other way around. Waiting is doubt in disguise. Inside every man there are two identities at war: the drifter, who overthinks, hesitates, makes excuses, and seeks validation before action, and the builder, who decides, acts, trusts his vision more than his feelings, and bends reality by refusing to flinch. Both identities are fed by thought. The one you feed becomes stronger. The one you starve dies. So ask yourself, which self do you nourish daily? The drifter who doubts, or the builder who believes? Here is how you begin to break the cycle of doubt. Awareness. The moment a thought of hesitation rises, call it out. Do not let it slip by unseen. Replacement. Speak a new thought with power. I move without hesitation. I trust my decision. My action creates my reality. Immediate movement. Take one step in the direction of the belief. Now, not later. This is not theory. This is mental reprogramming, because your subconscious is not convinced by arguments. It is convinced by repetition and proof of action. Charles M. Schwab was not chosen by Carnegie because he was the smartest. He was chosen because he carried himself with decisive certainty. He spoke as if success was inevitable. His thoughts projected leadership, and men followed him because he had already broken the cycle of hesitation. John D. Rockefeller built empires not because he avoided risk, but because his thinking was so disciplined that he never surrendered to fear's illusion. He severed doubt at its root and replaced it with clarity, so strong that fortune bent toward him. This is what you must practice: the severing of doubt at the thought level before it infects your body and actions. Say this now: I refuse the cycle of hesitation. My thoughts create my direction, and I choose decisiveness. I move before I feel ready, and readiness bends to me. Say it again with authority, because every word you speak to yourself is either a chain or a key. You now see the trap. The prison is not outside, it is inside. It is the cycle of doubt, reinforced by hesitation and waiting. But you also hold the key. By severing weak thoughts and replacing them with decisive ones, you begin the great rewiring, because reality does not respond to the man who wonders. Reality responds to the man who decides.
Your life bends to the direction of your mind, not sometimes, not occasionally,
Always. Wherever your focus goes, your energy follows, and wherever your energy flows, reality begins to take shape. Most men never master this law. They scatter their attention across trivial distractions, news, gossip, endless scrolling, fleeting desires, and then they wonder why their lives are fragmented, unfocused, mediocre. But the unbreakable truth is this: focus is the architect of destiny. Your attention is your most valuable currency. It buys your future. Every moment you spend thinking about fear, you purchase hesitation. Every moment you spend thinking about possibility, you purchase progress. The tragedy is that most men give this currency away for free. They let weak men, loud voices, and digital noise hijack their focus, and because their minds are scattered, so is their reality. The builders of history understood this. To change reality, you must control what your mind sees, hears, and repeats. Focused thought creates a focused life. Henry Ford, mocked for his dream of an automobile for the masses, did not waste focus on critics. He bent all his attention toward one thing: creating a car affordable to every family. That clarity of focus birthed the assembly line and reshaped the world. Thomas Edison was legendary not only for invention, but for obsession. He could spend days locked in pursuit of a single problem, undistracted by anything outside the vision of light. That concentration built more than inventions. It built an empire of innovation. Andrew Carnegie became the steel magnate, not by chasing dozens of industries, but by locking his focus onto one. While others scattered across opportunities, he bent his mind towards steel with ruthless clarity, and the world rewarded him with fortune. Distraction is not harmless. It is theft. Every time you allow your focus to drift into triviality, you are robbed of power. Social media arguments, endless entertainment, the opinions of men who have built nothing, these are weapons designed to scatter your focus, and a scattered man is a powerless man. The enemy does not need to destroy you. It only needs to divide your attention until your energy is too diluted to build anything of consequence. The builder trains his focus like a warrior sharpens his blade. He does not ask, "What do I feel like doing today?" He asks, "What serves the vision?" He does not chase every opportunity. He filters every choice through this. Does this align with my purpose? He does not allow weak voices to enter his mental gates. He guards them like a fortress. One vision, one mission, one focus. Everything else is noise. Here is how you begin mastering the law of focus. Each morning, you align. You begin the day by speaking the vision, writing it, imagining it with intensity. You tell your mind where to look, before the world tells it where to drift. Throughout the day, you filter. When a new opportunity, distraction, or request enters, you ask, "Does this serve my definite purpose?" If not, it dies. And each evening you reflect. Before sleep, write one line: "Did my focus today build the man I am becoming?" This question alone exposes wasted hours and redirects your path. Say this aloud with authority: "My focus is power, and I direct it with discipline. I do not scatter my attention. I lock it onto my purpose. Where my mind goes, my life follows, and I choose direction with clarity." Speak it until your nervous system believes it, because repetition builds grooves in the subconscious, and those grooves become the highways your destiny drives. Greatness is not found in options. Greatness is found in narrowing. The average man keeps a dozen doors open, fears commitment, flirts with many paths, but marries none. He mistakes movement for momentum, noise for direction. The builder closes doors. He burns the unnecessary. He narrows his vision until the path ahead becomes inevitable. That is why his life compounds power while others drift. Focus breeds depth. Depth breeds mastery. Mastery breeds authority. And authority bends reality. When you master focus, you no longer chase opportunity. Opportunity chases you. The world is magnetized to the man who knows what he is building. Ford, Edison, Carnegie, Rockefeller, none of them dabbled. They chose. They narrowed. They focused until the world had no choice but to adjust. If you want to change your reality, You must master the law of focus, not tomorrow, not when life slows down, now, because the man who controls his focus controls his future. There is one decision that separates the drifter from the builder, the forgotten man from the man who carves his name into history. It is not talent, it is not luck, it is not even discipline, it is definiteness of purpose. Without it, the strongest man will scatter. With it, the weakest man becomes unstoppable. A man with no purpose will always serve a man who has one. If you do not decide what your life is for, the world will decide for you. It will hand you distractions, meaningless work, endless noise. You will wake up reacting instead of commanding. But the moment you decide, deeply, finally, without apology, who you are and what you are building, everything changes. Your thoughts align, your habits align, your relationships align, even time itself begins to bend around your mission. Look at the average man. He has dreams but no decision. He has goals but no spine. He has movement but no direction. He starts projects and abandons them halfway. He drifts from job to job, idea to idea, relationship to relationship, mistaking activity for progress. His energy is divided, and divided energy is powerless. This is why most men die with potential still locked inside them. They never chose. They never declared their purpose. Andrew Carnegie did not aim to be successful someday. He decided with finality, steel would be his empire. His purpose was so sharp, so burning, that men twice his age bent to his vision. That decision shaped the entire foundation of American industry. Henry Ford did not wander between possibilities. He did not say, maybe I'll build cars, maybe something else. He made a decision to revolutionize transportation. That purpose focused his mind like a laser, and from that focus came the assembly line, an invention that changed civilization. Abraham Lincoln did not drift into greatness. He carried a purpose larger than his own life, the preservation of a nation and the liberation of its people. That clarity allowed him to endure mockery, division, and war without breaking. Their greatness was not born of chance. It was born of definiteness of purpose. You must write your purpose in one sentence, not 10, not a page. 1. Because when your mind has one target, it organizes your entire being around it. But when it has many, it chases shadows. Ask yourself, what must I build before my time is done? Who must I become? What result must I demand from my life, no matter the cost? Write it, etch it, protect it. That sentence is the compass of your destiny. Once you have your sentence, everything bends to it. The food you eat serves it. The books you read serve it. The people you associate with serve it. The risks you take serve it. You stop waking up wondering what the day will bring. You command the day to deliver what you have already decided. That is the power of purpose. It eliminates hesitation. It kills distraction. It makes your yes strong and your no far. Here is how you forge it into your subconscious. Write it by hand every morning. Do not type it. Hand to paper engraves it deeper. Speak it aloud every night with spine straight, with fire in your tone, not as a wish but as a fact. Filter every decision through it. When opportunity appears, ask, does this serve my purpose? If not, it dies. Do this long enough, and your purpose becomes your identity. Without purpose, even the strongest habits will collapse. Without purpose, discipline is fragile. Without purpose, motivation fades. You may build halfway, but you will always abandon the construction. You may start strong, but you will drift at the first storm. The only force strong enough to hold everything together is your why. Say this aloud. I know my purpose, and I follow it without apology. My energy is sacred, and it bends toward one mission. I do not drift. I do not scatter. I move with definiteness of purpose. Let those words burn into you, because a man with purpose is a man with authority, and the world cannot resist authority. This is your dividing line. From this moment forward, you cannot live like a leaf in the wind. You cannot serve two masters, two visions, two identities. One must die. Write the sentence, protect it, live it, because when you know your purpose, you no longer beg life for meaning. You command. Most men think faith is a feeling. They wait for it to descend like lightning from the sky, for confidence to wash over them, for some invisible force to carry them into action. And because they wait, they never move. But faith is not emotion. Faith is construction. It is built the same way a fortress is built, brick by brick, act by act, repetition by repetition, until one day you stand inside a structure so unshakable that even your doubts bow to it. Your subconscious mind does not argue with you. It does not reason. It does not ask whether what you feed it is true or false. It only accepts what is repeated, what is spoken with intensity, what is emotionalized, and then it builds your reality around that assumption. If you repeat fear, your subconscious obeys. It filters life through danger. If you repeat weakness, your subconscious obeys. It shapes you into hesitation. If you repeat certainty, your subconscious obeys. It aligns your actions, your speech, your posture, with power. This is not mysticism, it is mental law. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That was not just clever optimism, that was the language of faith, repeated until his mind accepted it as fact. He carried the image of the light bulb in his thoughts long before the world saw it with their eyes. John Rockefeller rehearsed discipline and certainty daily. He treated his mind like an army, drilling it with structure, with order, with clarity. His fortune was not built on chaos, but on the mental rehearsal of order, repeated until it became second nature. Andrew Carnegie demanded of his men, not interest but obsession. He required them to speak, think, and act as if success was inevitable, and their repetition created an atmosphere so strong that failure could not breathe inside it. Most men rehearse the wrong script. They speak doubt daily. They imagine disaster more often than triumph. They replay betrayal, failure, and fear in their minds like a broken record, and then they wonder why confidence never arrives. Faith cannot grow where fear is constantly rehearsed. You cannot marinate in hesitation and expect certainty to rise. Here is how you construct faith deliberately. Every morning and every night, speak your identity aloud, not as a hope, not as a question, as a declaration. I am decisive, I am certain, I move with authority, my outcome is inevitable. Do not speak flatly, inject emotion. Feel the words until your body aligns with them, because the subconscious does not respond to noise, it responds to intensity. Immediately take one step that proves the declaration. If you said, "I act without hesitation," then act without hesitation. This is how belief becomes reality. Repetition, in word matched by repetition. Indeed, think of faith like a muscle. A man does not build strength by lifting once. He builds it by showing up, by applying resistance, by pushing through fatigue. The more he resists comfort, the stronger he becomes. Faith works the same way. Every time you act despite doubt, every time you move forward in silence, every time you keep your word in private, you add another layer of strength, and soon, your faith becomes so strong, it no longer requires evidence. It becomes the evidence. Faith is not loud. It is not hype. It is not fireworks or speeches. Faith is steady, silent, grounded. It is built when you rise at dawn to repeat your declaration. It is built when you act without applause. It is built when no one sees you, but you move anyway. That is how Abraham Lincoln carried a nation through fire. He was not the most charismatic. He was not the most adored, but his faith in principle was rehearsed so deeply that no critic could uproot it. His repetition made him unshakable. Say this aloud now. Spine tall, voice steady. I build faith daily, not by chance but by choice. My repetition is my weapon. My words are commands. My actions are proof. I do not wait for evidence. I create it through repetition. Say it again, loud, because each time you repeat it, you carve a groove into your subconscious, and the deeper the groove, the straighter the path your life walks. Faith is not a mystery. It is a practice. It is repetition, forged into certainty, and the man who builds faith this way becomes unshakable. He does not wait to feel confident. He does not beg for proof. He speaks. He repeats. He acts, and reality bends to his pattern. So from this moment forward, rehearse with fire, repeat with conviction, act with alignment, because faith is not given. Faith is built. There comes a moment in every man's life where he must make a decision so final, so absolute, that there is no path left to retreat. That moment is the dividing line between who he has been and who he is becoming. And until you cross that line, until you burn the bridge, you will always drift back into the arms of your weaker self. Most men never rise because they always keep a way out, a backup plan, a quiet excuse, a hidden exit in case things get hard. They say, if this doesn't work, I can always go back. If I fail, at least I'll have something safe. I'll try, but I'll keep my options open. That thinking is poison, because when you keep the bridge intact, you will always retreat the moment pressure builds. You cannot transform while clinging to the option of staying the same. Every titan of history knew this law. A divided mind is a defeated mind. Charles M. Schwab did not rise to the presidency of Carnegie Steel because he was the smartest man in the room. He rose because he moved like a man who had already killed the option of mediocrity. His tone, his energy, his speech carried the certainty of a man with no return ticket. Henry Ford did not gamble on the assembly line while keeping one foot in safety. He poured everything into his vision. When critics laughed, when investors doubted, when engineers failed, he pressed forward because there was no bridge to run back across. Thomas Edison did not attempt invention with a safety net, 10,000 failures, and never once did he say, perhaps this is not for me. He had no exit. The only path was forward. That is why their names remain carved into time while most men fade into dust. Weak men refuse to sever ties with their old selves. They keep the contacts that drain their focus. They keep the habits that feed their doubt. They keep the comforts that whisper, if this is too hard, you can always come back. And so they never rise, because the old identity remains alive, waiting, breathing, ready to reclaim them at the first sign of struggle. Burning the bridge is not symbolic, it is strategic. When you eliminate the option of retreat, you awaken a part of your mind most men never touch. It is the mind that must win, because it has no choice. This is the energy that turns effort into obsession. This is the posture that transforms hesitation into momentum. This is the moment you stop trying and start becoming. If you want to burn the bridge, here is what must die. Old habits, delete them, replace them, starve them of oxygen until they wither. Old voices, remove the doubters, the drifters, the men who mock your discipline. One weak mind in your circle dilutes your fire. Old comforts, destroy the retreats, the distractions, the safe spaces that allow you to slide backward. Comfort is a liar. It convinces you that you are fine where you are, but greatness never lives there. Burn it all, because the man you were and the man you are becoming cannot coexist. One must die. Do not be surprised when the old self screams. It will beg, it will whisper, it will reason with you. It's okay just this once. Balance is important. You can always try again later. That voice is not balance. That voice is betrayal. It is the final ghost of the identity you must kill, and you kill it by speaking louder, by declaring I act from decision, not from feeling. I move because I chose this path, not because it is easy. The man I was has no power here. Say this loud, the bridge is gone. There is no retreat. The man I was has no shelter left. I move forward with fire, because forward is the only direction left. Say it with force until you feel the door slam shut behind you. When you burn the bridge, you eliminate negotiation. You stop asking if you will succeed. You stop wondering if you are ready. You stop bargaining with fear. You simply move. And because your subconscious accepts the command, your energy aligns. You no longer need motivation. You no longer need proof. You have no choice but to execute. This is the edge. This is the posture that bends reality. So understand this. The bridge is not your friend. It is the silent enemy of your future. And the day you set it on fire is the day your transformation truly begins. From this moment forward, there is no plan B. There is no if not. There is no retreat. There is only forward, only execution, only evolution. Burn the bridge, and let the fire behind you fuel the man you are becoming. No man rises alone. No man builds an empire in isolation. No man becomes unshakable while surrounded by weakness. You may believe your willpower is enough, that your private discipline will carry you to greatness. But history proves otherwise. Alignment multiplies power. The circle you keep will either sharpen you into steel or soften you into dust. This is the law of the mastermind. Your thoughts are not just your own. They are shaped, sharpened, or poisoned by the voices you allow closest to you. If you surround yourself with doubt, you will think in hesitation. If you surround yourself with gossip, you will think in triviality. If you surround yourself with vision, you will think in power. The law is absolute. You become like the minds you consistently align with. Henry Ford did not build the automobile industry in solitude. He aligned himself with thinkers and engineers who fueled his fire and refined his vision. Thomas Edison's laboratories were not silent rooms of one man tinkering. They were hubs of shared obsession, where ideas passed between minds like sparks until inventions took flame. Andrew Carnegie credited his fortune not to chance or intelligence, but to the power of the mastermind. He deliberately surrounded himself with men whose conviction matched his own, and through their combined certainty, an empire rose. Charles M. Schwab did not stumble into leadership. He aligned himself with men of vision, and climbed by association with their strength. But not every voice deserves entry into your circle. A single weak mind can dilute the fire you are building. The man who speaks doubt when you speak decision, the man who mocks your discipline, the man who values comfort over clarity, the man who gossips instead of builds. These men are poison to your destiny. If you allow them in your atmosphere, they will corrode. Protecting your focus is not arrogance, it is survival. The mastermind is not casual friendship. It is not about comfort. It is not about being entertained. It is about alignment. You must seek or build a circle of men who speak with clarity, move with purpose, hold you accountable, and demand of you the same level of fire you demand of yourself. When you connect your mind with another who shares your obsession, something miraculous happens. Ideas multiply, energy compounds, timelines collapse. What seemed impossible alone becomes inevitable together. Here is how you begin. Audit your circle. Write down the 5 voices you spend the most time with. Ask yourself honestly, do they sharpen me or soften me? Do they multiply my mission or distract from it? If the answer is no, they must go. Remove weak ties, not with anger, but with finality. If a man does not feed your vision, he bleeds it. Then seek one aligned mind. Start small. One man who speaks with power, who moves with discipline, who sharpens you. Add another. Build deliberately, not carelessly. Meet with purpose, not with noise. Speak your visions aloud. Hold each other accountable. Remove soft language like maybe or someday and replace it with declarations. I will, I am, it is done. Say this aloud now. I do not align with weakness. I align with power. My circle sharpens me. My circle multiplies me. My circle builds with me. Repeat it until your subconscious accepts it as a filter, because once you believe it, you will begin to attract the right minds and repel the wrong ones. Discipline is forged in solitude, but acceleration is born in alignment. You can build slowly alone, but you will multiply when you unite with others of equal fire. Napoleon Hill called this the most powerful principle of wealth. It is not optional, it is necessary. Greatness is never one man's work. It is the product of aligned minds moving as one. So decide now, who belongs in your circle? Who must you release? Who must you become to attract the minds you want around you? Because one aligned conversation can shift your entire trajectory, and one weak one can steal it. Choose wisely, build deliberate, because your mastermind will either elevate you into greatness or drag you back into mediocrity.
There is a secret that separates the few who rise from the many who quit. It is the truth that belief must always come before evidence. The world does not reward the man who waits for proof. The world rewards the man who believes so deeply, so unshakably, that he moves as if the proof already exists. Most men remain trapped in hesitation because they demand evidence before action. They wait for money before they act like builders. They wait for applause before they speak with authority. They wait for opportunity before they move with commitment. They live under the illusion that evidence creates belief, but the law is the opposite. Belief creates evidence. Your subconscious mind does not respond to what is true. It responds to what is repeated, what is believed, what is emotionalized. If you wait until the world proves your vision, you will wait forever. Abraham Lincoln did not have certainty of outcome when he led a fractured nation. He had no evidence that freedom would prevail. He had no proof that unity would survive, yet his belief in principle was stronger than the chaos before him, and that belief carried him through fire. Henry Ford had no market research, no guaranteed demand, no applause when he set out to replace the horse. He believed first and acted as though the world was already bending to him. That belief built factories before the public even understood the dream. John D. Rockefeller built wealth in his mind before he possessed it in his hand. He structured his thoughts in certainty, carried himself in inevitability, and the world adjusted to match. Thomas Edison never asked what if the light never works. He asked only what else must I try until it does. That is belief before evidence, and because of it, the light belongs to his name. The weak wait for evidence. The powerful create it. The weak say, I'll act when I feel ready. The powerful say, I act and readiness will follow. The weak say, I'll speak with confidence once I've succeeded. The powerful say, I speak with confidence and my success will follow. The weak say, I'll move when I see proof. The powerful say, my movement creates the proof. That is the difference between drifting and building. Here is how you install belief before evidence into your identity. Each morning, declare the vision as though it is already complete. Not someday I will, but it is mine, it is done. I walk as the man who already possesses it. Carry yourself in tone, posture, and action, as if the outcome is secured. Your subconscious reads your body as law. When you move with certainty, belief deepens. Visualize vividly, emotionally, feel the outcome in advance. The mind cannot distinguish between imagination rehearsed with fire and reality lived. It will align with whatever you repeat, with intensity. Fear will always whisper, what if it doesn't work? But fear is not prophecy. Fear is programming. Every time you obey it, you reinforce it. Every time you act in spite of it, you starve it. Most men rehearse doubt until it feels like truth. Builders rehearse belief until it becomes unshakable law. Say this aloud with conviction. I believe before I see. My vision is real before the world knows it. I act as though the outcome is secured, and my actions create the evidence. The world does not give me permission. My belief commands reality. Repeat it until it imprints itself into your nervous system, until it becomes louder than hesitation. Belief is not wishful thinking, it is identity. The man who believes moves differently, speaks differently, persists differently. His energy becomes magnetic. His presence bends rooms. His certainty makes others follow. Evidence always arrives late. Belief arrives first. And the man who chooses belief writes history while others wait. So stop waiting. Stop begging for signs. Stop demanding proof before you move. Decide. Believe. Move. The scoreboard may say you are losing. The critics may say you are foolish. The silence may suggest nothing is working. But if you carry belief like law, reality must eventually bend to match it. Belief before evidence. That is the posture of power. That is the seed of transformation. If there is one trait that decides who rises and who drifts, it is not talent, it is not luck, it is not intelligence, it is decisiveness, the ability to choose with finality, to act without retreat, to move as if hesitation does not exist. A man who delays decays. Every pause leaks conviction. Every hesitation invites fear to grow louder. Every time you stall, you hand your power to doubt. Most men disguise their indecision as logic. They say they are waiting for clarity, waiting for the right time, waiting to feel ready. But clarity is not the cause of decision. It is the result of it. Readiness never arrives before movement. Information will never be complete. The man who waits for certainty before he moves will wait until the end of his life. Indecision is nothing more than fear dressed in reasonable language. Henry Ford was told his dream of building an 8-cylinder engine in one block was impossible. His engineers swore it could not be done. He did not form committees to debate. He did not hesitate. He said, build it anyway, and they did. Charles M. Schwab rose to power, not because he was the most skilled technician, but because he carried the weight of command. When decisions had to be made, he made them without wobble. He did not flinch under responsibility. He understood that hesitation is weakness, and weakness spreads. Abraham Lincoln, facing a nation tearing itself apart, could not afford to delay. Every choice was opposed, every path criticized, but he made decisions and held them, and his finality became the spine of a divided people. Thomas Edison did not decide thousands of times whether to keep going. He decided once, at the beginning, that the light bulb would exist. From that single decision flowed 10,000 attempts. His decision was stronger than his doubt. History does not remember the hesitant, it remembers the decided. Weak men say, "I'll try and see how it goes." Builders say, "I have decided, and I will see it through." Weak men negotiate with themselves endless. Builders choose once, and the choice becomes law. Weak men leave doors open. Builders burn them shut. Here is how you forge decisiveness into your identity. Give yourself deadlines. Do not allow decisions to linger. Minutes, not months. The faster you decide, the sharper your certainty grows. Kill alternatives. Burn the back doors. No plan B. No retreat. Once chosen, it is final. Then act immediately. A decision without action is only hesitation disguised. The moment you choose, you must move, or your subconscious will not believe you. Say this aloud: I decide quickly. I do not delay. My decisions are final. My word is law. I move without hesitation, and the world bends to my certainty. Speak it again, louder, until your body feels it as command, because a man who decides once and firmly never drifts again. Your identity is built by decisions. Each one is a brick. Indecision preserves the old self. Decision creates the new. If you keep slipping back into hesitation, it is not because you are weak. It is because you have not decided to kill the weaker version of yourself. But the moment you do, the old self dies. Make one decision today and refuse to revisit it. Fitness, business, purpose. It does not matter what. Choose and do not look back. The moment your subconscious sees that your word is law, it will align your entire being to protect it. Indecision is death. Hesitation is decay. Doubt is the enemy of destiny. But decisiveness, fast, final, unapologetic, becomes the spine of an unshakable man. Choose, commit, move. That is the law. The man who obeys it cannot be broken.
Most men operate at the level of what they are paid to do. They calculate effort based on wage. They give the bare minimum. They stop at the line of expectation and wait for reward. That is why most men remain average, stuck in cycles of mediocrity, never rising beyond survival. But builders, those who command their destiny, live by a different law, the law of over-delivering. The law is simple and unbreakable. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. Life does not reward you based on hours. It rewards you based on value, and value is multiplied in the extra mile, the unseen effort, the silent stretch beyond what is required. Andrew Carnegie started as a poor boy in a telegraph office. He wasn't asked to memorize train routes, but he did. He wasn't required to learn Morse code fluently, but he did. He went beyond the duty and into mastery, and because of that, he became indispensable. His name, once unknown, rose into fortune because he practiced the principle of giving more first long before he was rewarded for it. Charles M. Schwab was not promoted because he was a technical genius. He was promoted because he carried himself with more energy, more encouragement, more initiative than anyone around him. He gave more. His focus, his presence, his ability to lift those around him, and Carnegie paid him more than any other steel man in history. Henry Ford did not invent the car. He revolutionized the process. He asked, how can we make this better, faster, more valuable for the common man? He over-delivered not only on the product, but on the process itself. That mindset created an empire. Thomas Edison gave more of his life to his work than most men can even imagine. Thousands of sleepless nights, thousands of failed experiments, thousands of attempts nobody saw. He was not clocking hours, he was over-delivering value to the world. That is why his name is carved into history. Understand this. When you live by the law of over-delivering, you separate yourself instantly, because the extra mile is the emptiest one. Everyone wants success, but few are willing to carry the unseen weight. Most men stop at the requirement. The builder pushes past it, and in that space where others are absent, he rises alone. Do not think this law applies only to business. It applies everywhere. In your relationships, when you give more love, more clarity, more presence than expected, you become invaluable. In your discipline, when you rise earlier,
push harder, and hold yourself to higher standards. Your growth compounds. In your identity, when you act beyond your feelings, you build a spine no storm can shake. The world cannot ignore the man who over-delivers. The marketplace, relationships, even time itself begins to bend in his favor, because he is no longer common. He becomes a force. He becomes irreplaceable. Here is the danger of living at the minimum. You remain replaceable. If you do only what is asked, you are no different than thousands of others. But when you consistently do more, you create a gap between yourself and the masses, so wide that no one can compete. Opportunity begins to chase you, not the other way around. So ask yourself, where can I over-deliver today? In what task can I go beyond expectation? In what conversation can I bring more presence? In what project can I give more detail, more energy, more clarity than anyone asked me to? That is where power lives. That is where success compounds. That is where you shift from average to unstoppable. Say these words aloud. I do more than what I am paid to do. I exceed expectations. As a way of life, I over-deliver in silence, without need for applause, because my standard is excellence. Repeat it until it becomes your identity, because when over-delivering becomes who you are, you will never lack for opportunity again. Understand this clearly. You are not paid for your time. You are paid for your value. And the way to increase value is simple. Give more than you are asked. Build more than you are paid for. Serve more than is expected. This is not charity. It is strategy, because the law of over-delivering is universal, and it does not miss. So today, cross the invisible line of enough. Push further. Stay longer. Deliver more. Do it when no one is watching. Do it when no one claps. Do it when it feels unnoticed, because the law is patient, but it is precise. It multiplies value over time until your rewards are inevitable. The average man asks, what am I owed? The builder asks, what else can I give? And that difference alone decides the future. The man who gives more becomes more, and the man who becomes more will always have more. This is the law. It is not optional. It is not biased. It does not fail. Over-deliver and your life will rise. Stay at the minimum, and you will remain buried there. From this moment forward, refuse the bare minimum. Refuse the ordinary standard. Refuse to live at average. Step into the extra mile and let your name be carved into excellence, because the world rewards the man who gives without limit, and it always returns it multiplied. There is a law so simple most overlook it, yet so powerful it quietly determines who rises and who remains stuck. It is the law of compensation. You are not paid for the time you spend. You are paid for the value you bring, and value is determined by how much further you are willing to go beyond what is expected. The average man does exactly what he is told, nothing more. He does his job, fulfills his duty, and then waits for reward. But the exceptional man moves differently. He gives more, builds more, sharpens more, and because of that, opportunity hunts him down. Charles M. Schwab began at the bottom. He did not carry a golden education or connection. What separated him was his attitude toward work. He made himself irreplaceable by consistently doing more than anyone else. He encouraged others when no one asked him to. He solved problems before they became crises. He brought energy where others brought fatigue. His commitment made him indispensable, and because of that, Andrew Carnegie rewarded him with one of the highest salaries in America. Carnegie himself was a student of the same law. When he began in a telegraph office, he learned far more than was required. He memorized train routes, mastered Morse code, stayed ahead of every expectation. That extra effort became the foundation of a fortune that transformed industries. Most men never rise because they move only when compensated. They think effort is a transaction, giving the minimum required and holding back everything else. But greatness does not live at the minimum. Greatness is hidden in the extra mile, the work done when no one is watching, the value created when no one asks. Thomas Edison did not clock hours like a laborer. He poured sleepless nights into experiments that had no guarantee of return. He did not demand reward first. He gave value relentlessly, and because of that, his name is etched into history. Henry Ford could have settled at producing cars like everyone else. Instead, he revolutionized production itself. He asked, how can I give more? How can I build better, faster, stronger, For the people, that drive to exceed created not only wealth but a move. Understand this clearly. The world measures you not by your intentions but by your output. It does not care what you meant to do, only what you delivered. It does not care how many hours you stayed busy, only the impact you create. The man who consistently does more than he is asked becomes too valuable to ignore. The man who waits for reward before giving will never receive more than scraps. This is not just about work, it is about identity. In relationships, the man who gives more love, more clarity, more leadership than expected becomes irreplaceable. In discipline, the man who pushes further, who holds himself to a higher standard than anyone demands, becomes unshakable. In personal growth, the man who studies harder, trains longer, and refines deeper than others, separates himself until he stands alone at the top. The law of over-delivering is not situational, it is universal. Here is how you practice it daily. Ask yourself each morning, where can I exceed today? What detail can I refine? What effort can I extend? What task can I complete? Not just adequately, but excellently. Then do it without announcing it, without asking for credit, without expectation of applause, because the law does not fail. The extra mile may be empty, but that emptiness is your advantage. Walk it until it becomes who you are. Say this aloud: I do more than I am asked. I exceed expectation as a way of life. I am not average, I am excellence embodied. Repeat it until your subconscious accepts it as identity, because once it becomes who you are, opportunity, respect, and compensation will always follow. Most men are trapped in a cycle of demand and reward. They ask, what will I get if I do this? But the builder reverses it. He gives first, he delivers first, he creates value without waiting, and life, by law, returns it multiplied. This is why the greatest builders always seemed lucky. They weren't lucky, they were over-delivering long before the reward showed up. Luck is simply the name the average man gives to another man's discipline. So today, step beyond the line of enough. Push further, give more, deliver better, not because someone asked, but because you have chosen excellence as your standard. Do it in silence, do it without credit, do it until the world cannot ignore you, because the law of compensation does not miss. The man who gives more becomes more, and the man who becomes more will always have more.
There is a law as steady as gravity, as reliable as sunrise, and yet most men ignore it. It is the law of increasing returns. The man who gives more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. This truth is not motivational theory. It is economic, spiritual, universal law. You may resist it. You may try to cheat it, but you cannot escape it. Every action compounds, every effort multiplies, and the man who plants more seeds than others will always harvest more, though the return may not come immediately. Andrew Carnegie began as a messenger boy, earning pennies. He was not asked to learn Morse code, but he did. He was not required to memorize train schedules, but he did. He exceeded expectation quietly, consistently, and the people above him noticed. Not instantly, but inevitably. From that seed came opportunity. From opportunity came wealth, and from wealth came empire. Henry Ford did not invent the automobile. Others had tried. What set him apart was his obsession with delivering more value than anyone else dared. He built not just cars but an assembly line that made them affordable for the common man. He pushed further than expected, and because of that, his name rewrote history. Thomas Edison carried the same law. He did not stop at good enough. He pressed through failure after failure, delivering more effort, more persistence, more invention than anyone thought humanly possible. The world paid him in recognition, patents, and fortune, but all of it came because he first over-delivered without promise of return. John D. Rockefeller worked longer, thought deeper, and disciplined his life more rigorously than any competitor. His standard was excellence without negotiation, and the returns compounded until his fortune towered above nations. Most men sabotage themselves by living at the minimum. They ask what is required, and then they give only that. They do not plant extra seeds, so they are surprised when the harvest is small. They do not invest beyond the demand,
so they remain replaceable. They mistake effort for impact and wonder why life does not reward them. But life does not pay you for what you intend. It pays you for what you produce. And what you produce multiplies only when you live in the principle of more. Understand this. The extra mile is empty. That is why it is powerful. Most men refuse to walk it. They are tired, distracted, afraid of being taken advantage of. They think giving more without immediate reward makes them weak. But the extra mile is where greatness hides. The competition thins out, noise disappears, and the man who walks it becomes undeniable. Opportunity, respect, influence, wealth, they are all stored in the territory beyond average effort. Do not confuse this law with charity. It is not about giving recklessly or draining yourself for nothing. It is about raising your standard until exceeding expectation becomes identity. In your work, you deliver results that no one asked for, and soon you are trusted with more. In your relationships, you show more presence and loyalty than expected, and soon you are irreplaceable. In your discipline, you push further than required, and soon your growth compounds into strength that separates you from the crowd. The law of increasing returns is not a trick. It is a habit of excellence repeated until reality bows. Say these words aloud. I do not ask what I am owed. I ask what more I can give. I exceed expectation as my standard. I walk the extra mile, and the returns of life multiply in my favor. Repeat them until they burn into your nervous system, because when your subconscious believes them, your actions follow, and your results compound. The returns are not always immediate. They may not appear tomorrow or next week, but they always arrive. They arrive in trust, in reputation, in opportunity, in influence, and eventually in wealth. The man who consistently gives more than required builds a momentum that no setback can stop. He becomes a magnet. He becomes indispensable. He becomes the man called upon when it matters. So from this moment forward, erase the minimum, destroy the bare standard, step into the empty mile, deliver more, build more, sharpen more, do it without applause, without permission, without demand, because the law is certain. The man who gives more becomes more, and the man who becomes more will always have more. You have walked through the laws, you have seen the principle, you have heard the truths that men before you used to shape history. But none of it matters unless you decide, right now, to let these words move from information into identity. Because this journey was never about listening, it was about rewiring. It was about replacing the old self, the hesitant, the drifting, the doubtful, with the builder, the decisive, the certain. And now you stand at the line where knowledge must become embodiment. Understand this: the man who began this journey does not exist anymore. He lived in hesitation. He lived in fear. He repeated doubt until it became law. He wasted focus, entertained weakness, carried old comforts like trophies. But you have burned his bridge. You have starved his voice. You have rehearsed new patterns until they carved grooves into your mind. Now you must walk as the man who already is. Not someday, not eventually. Now, say this aloud with fire. I am not afraid. I act without hesitation. My thoughts are commands. My words are law. My decisions are final. My purpose is definite. My belief precedes evidence. My focus is unshakable. My circle sharpens me. My bridge is burned. My faith is built daily. My presence is powerful. I exceed expectation as a way of life. The world bends because my mind commands it. Say it again, slower, with spine tall, chest lifted, voice firm. Because each repetition is not noise, it is programming. It is installing grooves into your subconscious, and the deepest groove always wins. The man who repeats weakness becomes weak. The man who repeats certainty becomes certain. The man who repeats fear becomes a coward. The man who repeats power becomes unstoppable. Choose your loop, make this oath your loop, and rehearse it until it becomes louder than every whisper of doubt. Faith is not something you wait for, it is something you forge. Focus is not something you stumble into, it is something you guard. Decision is not something you debate endlessly, it is something you declare. Purpose is not something you discover by accident, it is something you write in fire. Presence is not something you hope to have, it is something you cultivate daily. Over-delivering is not something you do when convenient, it is something you embody as identity. All of it is built, not given, and you have built it. From this day forward, you no longer ask if life will work out. You no longer wonder if you are ready. You no longer seek signs, applause, or validation. You act because you decided. You move because you believe. You persist because you have no bridge left behind you. You build because your purpose demands it. And when doubt rises, when fear whispers, when hesitation tempts, you return to the oath and repeat it until every nerve in your body remembers who you are. You are no longer the man who hesitates. You are no longer the man who overthinks. You are no longer the man who waits for permission. That man is dead. The fire behind you burned him into dust. You are the man who commands his mind. You are the man who bends his focus. You are the man who moves with faith. You are the man who decides once and never retreats. You are the man who over-delivers when others stop. You are the man whose presence shifts rooms. You are the man who builds reality because he first built thought. Say this one last time, with the authority of a commander: I am not afraid. I act without hesitation. Everything bends in my favor because I have decided it will. I no longer wait for proof. I create it. I no longer negotiate with fear. I destroy it. I no longer drift. I build. I no longer wish. I decide. My identity is law. My purpose is fire. My faith is unshakable. My destiny is certain. This is not theory. This is not entertainment. This is identity. This is your new operating system. And from this moment, every room you enter, every word you speak, every step you take will reflect it. Let others wonder what changed. Let them sense the silence in your posture, the calm in your tone, the fire in your eye. They will not understand, and they do not need to, because you no longer explain. You no longer justify. You no longer wait. You move. The oath is yours now. Repeat it daily until it fuses into your subconscious. Speak it with fire until hesitation cannot breathe in your presence. Carry it until it becomes so natural that doubt feels foreign, hesitation feels impossible, and fear feels irrelevant. And from that place, you will build a life so unshakable, so undeniable, that history itself will remember you. The journey does not end here, it begins, because now you walk not as the man who started, but as the man who is already becoming, and the world will bend to that certainty.